Hopefully your resume has done its job and landed you an interview. With interviews, you typically get one shot, so doing everything you can to prepare is crucial. Let's begin with preparation for the questions. Nailing the "tell me about yourself" question can really set the tone for the interview and put your nerves at ease. You should have prepared a brief review of background, skills that you possess relevant to the job you are interviewing for, a few relevant previous accomplishments, and then wrap up with why you feel you'd be a good fit. Keep it brief, concise, relevant, and deliver with assertiveness. During the interview, most employers use behavioral-based interview questions. These questions are structured to ask the candidate for an example, the actions taken, and the outcome. An example behavioral question might be, "Tell me about a time you had to complete a project with a team of people. What was your role within the team and the contributions to the project, and how did the project turn out?" To respond to this question, you want to answer with a specific example, like, "While serving as chairman of the promotions committee for my university's homecoming, I worked with a team of 5 students to complete the planning for and development of all advertising content. As chairman, I was responsible for generating advertising opportunity ideas with other team members, narrowing down the list of ideas, developing ads, contacting people to secure ad space, and then approving the ads when turned in. Then I would provide them to the various advertising platforms. The advertisements appeared in a number of publications and promoted the homecoming event to a broad audience." Do you see how all 3 parts were answered to the question? Since behavioral questions tend to be lengthy, it can be hard to remember the specifics of all 3 parts. If you've forgotten and know there was something else you were to answer, don't be afraid to ask, "What was the other component you were interested in?" Another thing that should be noted is to keep your answers complete yet concise. If you feel like maybe you've slipped into a rambling session, ask if you sufficiently answered what they were looking for, and then try to go back to concise responses for the remainder of the interview. Employers will likely integrate in some other basic interview questions, such as, "What's your ideal company?" or "What are your strengths?" There's several practice questions listed online. The important thing is to make sure you actually practice them. Having an idea of what you are going to say will relieve nerves. Practice responding to questions in a mirror with a friend so that you can be critiqued on your nonverbal communication habits and refine those if necessary. Remember that it is okay to pause a little before responding to gather your thoughts. And one other note, while practicing is great, it is important to tailor your responses for each role and make sure that they don't sound rehearsed. What do you do if you're asked an inappropriate interview question, such as, "Are you married?" or "What religion or political affiliation are you?" While you hope the interviewers won't ask inappropriate questions, sometimes interviewers are new or don't know that they can't ask those type of things and have no malicious motive behind asking them. You need to assess the motive of the person or their true concern and let that help determine your response. You have 2 ways to respond. You can either answer the question or try to answer what they are really getting at. Simply blurting out that they've asked you an inappropriate question and that you aren't going to answer isn't the right response. If they ask you your religion, an illegal and inappropriate question, maybe you've gathered that they're concerned with whether you'll be able to work weekends and what holidays you observe in case it would interfere with scheduled business hours. In that case, rather than stating your religion, you'd say something like, "My faith is important to me, and I assure you that I can do the job and work the required hours in a way that aligns with my faith." As you are offered interviews, be sure to find out as much as possible about each. Ask about the expected length of the interview, what style of interview it will be, such as one-on-one, a group, or a series of one-on-one interviews. Also, you should ask for the names and titles of those that you will be interviewing with. And finally, ask if there are any items they'd like you to have prepared, such as a presentation or portfolio. Phone interviews are often used in early screening rounds. While not much different from in-person interviews, one downfall is that it is hard to gauge how the interview is going because you have no nonverbal interaction over the phone. Keep your responses short and to the point. Also smile. It can make a difference on how your response comes across on the other line. Most importantly, make sure you are doing your phone interview in a quiet place and on a phone with good reception. To minimize travel expenses, an increasing number of employers are utilizing Skype and other online platforms to conduct interviews. A virtual interview requires additional preparation and attention to detail from the job seeker. Unlike an in-person interview, you won't be able to make the first impression with a firm handshake. Instead, an employer's initial perception of you will likely be formed when viewing your user account. Ensure that your username is professional and is accompanied by a professional headshot if you include a picture. You may also consider setting up an account that is reserved for professional interactions and utilizes your first and last name as your username, making it easy for employers to find you. Avoid using your cell phone for the interview. Alerts and calls will be distracting. If you do not own a device with a webcam and/or a microphone, check with your college or local library for their equipment availability. Also, a reliable internet connection is key. Pick a location that is quiet and will be immune to interruptions from roommates and others. Avoid public spaces that will have lots of background noise. Ensure the space is well lit and clean. If there are items in the background, make sure they convey a positive image. You will be tempted to look at the screen, but instead focus on the webcam. This will give you the appearance of eye contact with the interviewer. When looking at the screen, it appears that you're avoiding eye contact, and it's more likely you'll get distracted looking at the video of yourself. You may consider suggesting a test call with the employer to flesh out any problems prior to the interview. This will likely make you and the employer feel less nervous. Unfortunately, technology is unpredictable, and it's still possible to experience a glitch during the interview. If problems arise, remain calm and polite while you troubleshoot. Prior to going to your interview, research the company. Find out about products, customers, and news stories, and try to integrate some of your knowledge and research into your responses to their questions or in the questions that you ask. Discreetly letting the employer know you've done this research will be beneficial and impressive. Typically, the employer will ask if you have any questions. This is a great opportunity to learn more about the company to decide if the job and company is right for you. And not asking questions looks bad in the eyes of the interviewers. Here are a few examples of good questions. How is employee performance measured at your organization? Please describe the leadership or management style of your company. What qualities do the most successful employees in your company possess? You are almost done with the interview, and many people would end the interview with questions to the employer. But the right way to end the interview is to ask for the job, if you think it is a good fit. Reiterate why you are a good fit for the job and that you are interested and want the position. Be sure to thank the interviewers for their time and ask what the next steps are. Always send a thank you, preferably handwritten, but if you know the employer's time frame for hiring is tight, an email is appropriate. If you do not hear from the employer in the expected time frame, give them a couple of days and then follow up to see how things are progressing with their recruiting process. We wish you all the luck, and don't hesitate to contact us with questions or email them to agcareers@agcareers.com.
Wow.